Looking at the screen. So we've been building this website, and that's the first page. Now, up at the top here, these are our navigation HTML, hyperlinks. Now, you could, once you become more experienced, what's the word? Once you become more comfortable with HTML, you can definitely make it look a lot nicer than this. This is pretty rough. It's just to show you sort of basics. But each of these hyperlinks, when I click on them, they take me to another page, right? And what I've done in the last little bit is I've got a couple of new pages here that I want to show you how to do a little bit of JavaScript. So we got our light bulb page, which has got some JavaScript, which is just a couple of buttons. One of the buttons I've already actually shown you, this date and time thing. When I click on it, it brings up the date and time at the moment. So every time I click it, that will change, maybe just by a few seconds, and it'll stay at that particular time until I click it again, right? And then when I refresh the page, that goes away. So there's a little a page that has a bit of JavaScript on it. Just have a look at this when I press this button. Sorry, I didn't do a very good job with the picture, but you get the idea. Pushing the button, the picture changes. So that's the idea of JavaScript, is you can actually change the stuff on the page. You can change the HTML with JavaScript. Now I say that JavaScript is client side as opposed to server side. I hope that I explained in the first couple lessons when we were talking about building web pages, HTML, that we have this, we publish it to the internet. When you publish it to the internet, it must be sitting on a server which has access to the internet. But before you publish it, you can just work with it on your own device anywhere. So we have this concept of a client and a server. Now, as a developer, I've been using my own client. If I publish these websites to the internet, then when somebody clicks on that website, what will happen is their browser will grab the HTML for one page and bring it up in their browser. They then are a client and they're working on their machine. When they want to pass data back and forth to the server, then we're starting to use the server software. All of your database, anything that's going to be persistent. When I say persistent, what I mean is any changes that you make in the database, which are going to be there tomorrow when you finish your session on the internet, they must happen on the server. What you do on the client, that is just for now, right? It's just during, you have a session on the client and you can do anything you like on the client, and it's just for now. So that's what I'm saying here. We're using JavaScript. It's client side. It's not going to change things on the database at the back end of your website, but it'll do cool things on the client side. So we can change the way we display things. We can bring up little bits of stuff. Let's have a look at that, how that happens. Now, this is my, if I look on here, I've got a web page called Lights. I've got a web page called JavaScript Inputs, and I've got a prompt up. I'll close that. I got two of the Java Pros. I've got two lights up too. So the pages that I don't have up are the columns page and the, oh, I'm missing one page from this, the 4 columns page. So maybe I should fix that. That's in the lights thing. So let's go into lights, see if I can find it. This one is not lights. This one is the Java inputs. I'm going to open up the lights one. So from my pages, if I open up my pages folder, I can see that's where I'm keeping all of my HTML. I keep it all together. That way I know what it is. I'm going to open up the light folder, the light file. And sorry, I should just click here, right? I want to open you. Open with Visual Studio Code. Now, what I noticed is that one of my, oh no, they're all there. The light bulb page shouldn't be there because I'm in the light. Oh no, I'm in the wrong page. JavaScript. I meant to open up the light bulb page. So why didn't that happen? Let's go back and have another look. Because I was on this one, I did that. All right. So let's open with, let's open with, this is showing different, let me just right click on it. Yeah, open with. And I noticed I had a bit of a, no, yeah, they're all there. One of them wasn't showing. So I have to go back and have a look at that and see what's going on there, right? So what this is saying is I've got a hyperlink for the home page, columns page, light bulb page. So yeah, this is the light bulb page. So this is wrong. I gave it the wrong name. So this is my 3-column page. And this one is my 4-column page. Columns. All right, so what's happening? Let's look at this. This is where the rubber's meeting the road. This is where our stuff is happening. First, we got this very simple one, which is we have a button, and the button says turn on the light. You see the right in there. That's what's the button. Now, what happens with the button is that in the document, there is a bit of code which has been identified as light image. Now, if I look through the code, I'll be able to find something that says light image. Where are you, light image? Oh, here it is right here, image. And it's called light image. And the source of that is an image that I've got in my image folder called light bulb off. So I start off with the light bulb being off, and the width of the light bulb is only 100 pixels. Now what happens is when I click this button, here's the instruction for what's going to happen. What this says is go and find the place in the file which is called light image. So that's this. Okay. And change the image to a different one that I find in the same place, but it's got a different name. And so that's all that's happening there. Now I've got another one here, another button, which this one is, so I haven't, no, I don't need an image for it. But this one uses the same place, light image, and it changes it to a different one, to the light off. So you can have light bulb on or light bulb off. You push this button, it turns the light bulb off. You turn this button and it turns the light bulb on. So we've seen that kind of works like this. So now we have the 2 buttons that work like that. The other one I've actually shown to you before, which is the button which we have an element called TAND, which I'm going to have. Where are you, TAND? Well, it should be at the bottom of the page, right? Okay, here's our P, there's our TAND, right? It's right after, right? So right at the bottom of the page, we've got this thing called TAND. And what this will do is when we click the button, it puts the date into the HTML. And so that's how that worked. Just looking at that again. So these ones turning the lights on and off. This one bringing up the time and date. Okay, that is very simple. JavaScript. It's not the kind of JavaScript that you're going to spend most of your time doing JavaScript if you ever become doing JavaScript. The next page actually has a better handle on that. And so in this page, what we're doing is we're using a special method called the prompt method. And the prompt method, we get input from the user. So this is going to be sort of familiar to you, like what we did with Python. So when I go and click on get name, it asks for a name. And so look, I'm going to put Felix name in here. It's okay, I just put Felix. And when I go okay, you see what happened here? It says, hello, Felix, how are you today? Let's do it again. Eric, hello. So here we have our web page is changing based on user input, not just the user clicking a button, but the user actually putting in some text, and that ends up on the web page. Okay, like I said, This is not going to affect the web page which has been published on a server somewhere, be a permanent change, but it will be a change for while we're using it. I should have cleared all that out. Now I'm going to show you another one. We got this thing do math. Watch what happens here. When I click on this, it asks free for a number. So let's take the number 4. And then it asks me for another number. Let's take the number 6. I'm just taking small numbers so that we can check the math in our head, because it's doing some simple math. And so what it does is I gave it the number 4 and the number 6, and it told me what is the multiple value, 24, what's the addition value, what's the subtraction value, and what's the division value. So how did that happen? Let's have a look at the code. So if I go to my code here, have I got it there? Yes, there's the JavaScript. So what's happening? This time, when we do our button click, instead of having some special thing that says, okay, go and get ID from, and then change it, what it does is it says, run this function. So in JavaScript, we can define functions like we did in Python. So now we're on about like a normal programming language that we're kind of familiar with. People my age who are writing programs 30 years ago can relate to this. Here we are creating functions and running functions. So we have some script tags. We put our JavaScript between script tags. By the way, we put our JavaScript between script tags and we put it at the bottom of our HTML document. The reason we do that is because when you load up your HTML into your browser, because what happens is when you point to that page on the internet, the browser goes and grabs the HTML and it reads the HTML one line at a time. If you put your script at the top, you could put it in the head if you wanted to. If you put your script at the top, the problem is that the browser will read and process the script and it might take some time. And then the user experience will be bad because the user will be watching a blank screen while the browser is figuring out the script, the JavaScript. So better to put the JavaScript last, so at least the user can see the web page up and knows that, well, at least I got to that web page. So what is happening with this? In our script, we say we define a function, kind of like we did in Python. Look at this. We got let. Let is kind of like we're defining a variable. So we have a variable here called person. And doesn't that prompt look familiar? In Python, we called it input. Here we call it prompt. What this is going to do is it's going to put up on the screen saying, please, well, it's going to say these things. And the comma is that it's going to fill the prompt with this word. So it doesn't have to be Henry Ford. You could have it be, Harry Potter, right? So you got Harry Potter there. Now, an if statement, if it's not null, if it's null, we wouldn't do this, right? If they didn't have a name in there, we're not going to go ahead and print it. But as long as they got a name in there, what we're going to do is we're going to find this thing on our web page. It's called put name. So look, there it is, put name. And we're going to put some text in there, which is going to say hello to whatever that person is. How are you today? So that's the function get name, which is run when we click the first button that says get name. Now we got another button for do math, which is going to run a function called do math. Do math function is defined down here. Got a bunch of variables. So these variables here from the prompt, the problem we have with them is they come in as a string. And so if we're going to use them for mathematics, we've got to convert them from a string to something else. Well, I've converted them to a float. You could convert them to a float or an integer, but because I knew I was going to be doing some division, I decided I'd rather have a float than an integer, because if I divide integers, I'm going to lose some of my information. I'll get 0 instead of some decimal, which is bad. All right, and so then the rest of this kind of looks familiar, I hope. We got this area in the screen called put math, and we're going to put this into it. Inner HTML is going to change. We're going to have some text, going to have the value of X, which is going to be a string. And then we're going to have the value of I didn't need to say part. Yeah, I did. We're going to have the value of num1 and 2. And now the BRs there, that just means go to a new line. And so when we run this function, it's going to take two numbers and it's going to do four different operations on them. And it's going to show the result on the screen. It's pretty simple, but I'm just trying to get you started on what it is that JavaScript can do. And so we're back to it. When I refresh the page, all of that goes away. Get the name. Oscar. Hello, Oscar. How are you today? And I could have it, yeah, and then do some math, get some numbers. We could have bigger numbers this time if you wanted. 45 and 89. And so we get these results that are kind of what we expected. All right. So the code, I know Chloe was going to ask me for the code. So I've already put that up. All right. All the code's there. And I've recorded this. Are there any questions? Because this recording, I'm going to save it and put it up on YouTube, and you guys can refer back to it if you need to. I am your teacher, so you can always ask me too. You don't have to look at a video or look at a piece of paper. You can come and ask me, and I'll try and help you. What I'd like you to do is to try and sort of see if you can make this web page work like I've made it work now. Easy peasy. With yeah, and make sure that you use your own pictures, right? Remember your own pictures. All right, so I think that's enough for me. I didn't get any questions, so I'm going to end the